Hello. Hello, everyone. How are you guys doing today? Hey, Leo. QP. What's up, QP? Hey, Yuhin Tom. Nice of you to join us. Asian man. There's an Asian man amongst us. Hey, Patrick. Glad you could join. Hi, Drift. What's up, Hope? Hello. Hello. Hey, Nikki. Wait, let me close this door. What's up, Top Uzi? I hope you're eating what? Strawberry marshmallow mochi. Oh, that sounds so good. Homemade black milk tea with tapioca. Mm-mm-mm. What's up, Paulo? How are you guys doing? Huh? How you doing, chat? How you doing this week? So remember last week when I said I finished creating or fixing my roof or the roof of my patio, and it rained and the rain didn't leak through, so I declared success, right? Yeah, well, this week it rained extra hard, and apparently there are leaks in the perfect roof that I built. Unfortunately, I counted about like 6 or 7 leaks. So I had to spend this whole morning trying to fix that, unfortunately. Hey, Streety McMeaty. Hey, Katie. Glad you could join. What's up, Amy? Oh, Dee Dee, glad you could join. Yeah, so I spent this morning fixing that up. So if you don't know, the roofing panels on my patio are those corrugated PVC panels, like the plastic panels with the corrugated whatever the fuck. So yeah, if you don't know, so you have to drill those uh into like the wood, right? And the water can seep into the screw holes, right? When you screw in the screw, the water could go inside, right? If you don't do it right. Apparently I didn't do it right. And it's leaking. So what you do is you take you're supposed to um put caulk around it, right? To cover it up, to seal it. Yeah, I love that word. Caulk. Caulk. So yeah, you have to put some caulk in the holes. I had a big old caulk. I had my big old caulk gun, right? So I had to climb up on the roof and caulk it up, right? Insert that caulk into the holes. Insert the caulk into the screw holes. Yeah, I did that. That took like a couple hours or 1 or 2 hours. But it should be raining tomorrow, right? So hopefully, well, we'll see if it works. We'll see if it works tomorrow. Hopefully, it doesn't leak again. And if there is, then I'll have to go do something else. I gotta figure out how to fix it. It's hard to know where it leaks, right? Because it's not like the screws are exposed, right? You can't really see. So you gotta. Sometimes it's hard to know where the leak is coming from because there's wood underneath it, and uh, a lot of parts of the wood are wet, so it's very hard to know where the leaks are coming from. Hopefully, I sealed it all. I had my caulk out on the roof. Yes, I did. What's up, Korea? You're working. You're working and watching this at the same time. Good job. Caulk? You don't know what caulk is? Did any of my stuff get wet? Well, I have some stuff out on the patio. Yeah, they kind of got wet, but it doesn't really matter. It's not like it wasn't like just totally dripping. Like it wasn't just a torrent of water inside the patio. It's just little drips, right? So it's fine. You're at work too? Tom, you're at school? Oh my god. People on this people in this chat don't know how to focus. Yeah, get out of work. Get out of there. Get out of work. All right, stop with that class stuff and listen to me talk. My editor is the best. Oh yeah, so I found an editor. Yeah. So before I did everything by myself, creating the videos, but I found an editor and he edited the first video that we worked together. It was just released yesterday. I think it turned out pretty well. Yeah, we've only started working together, so we got it's gonna take a couple of videos. It's gonna take some time for us to like figure out all of my neuroses and figure out how to work together well. Yeah, it's gonna have to figure out my style. So it's gonna take us a couple of videos, and the quality of the videos should improve. That's the hope, right? Yeah, so I'm happy that I found an editor. Who cares about school? Yeah, who cares about school? Dun, dun, dun. You're Canada. You're from Eastern Canada. Awesome. There are a couple of Canadians. There are a couple of Canadians in the chat. The editor is an animated guy. Yeah. The editor is actually not a person. He's a person that exists in the computer as an animation. So he knows a lot about animation, which is good. Hey Jennifer, thank you. I'm glad you like the stories. All right. What? So this is I'm gonna have to buy more Japanese snacks. I don't think I have any more left at home. What is this? Can you guys read that? I don't know what this is. This is the last I have from that sponsor, Boxu. This looks good. Oops. It's filled with something. I can feel it. Here you go. What is that? Something sweet. All right, what is this? I have a little booklet that they gave me. Come on. Well, this booklet is supposed to... Oh, okay, wait. This is a Hokkaido evaporated milk manju. The manju buns' dough is soft, and the sweet white bean paste is white bean paste. This is pretty good, actually. Very sweet. What is my favorite anime? I don't watch a lot of anime, but my favorite is probably Naruto. That's a great anime. I'm currently watching... What am I watching? Well, I'm in the middle of Avatar. Trying to finish that. And then after that, I think I'm going to have to watch Attack on Titan, the latest season. If you haven't watched Attack on Titan, that's a great series. Yeah, I think this is the last season, so I really want to watch that. Rate it? Rate it? I guess I'm gonna have to rate it in a 7. A 7? Yeah. It's a little bit sweet. I'm not that fan of really sweet stuff. So I'm gonna say 7. Hey Regina. I'm glad you like the channel. Yep. Attack on Titan. There's a couple of Attack on Titan fans. That's awesome. Yes, Nikki, you should watch Naruto. It's great. It's pretty long. You probably want to watch the non-filler episodes. You can look online for episodes that are canon and episodes that are filler, and skip the filler ones. Just skip them. Just skip them. They're not that good. They don't advance the story. They're not that good. Yeah, but there's a lot of episodes, so be prepared. Season 4 is the best. Season 4 of Attack on Titan. Okay, good. Because season 3 was pretty good. A lot of mysteries were revealed in season 3, so I'm excited to see what happens in season 4. I get the feeling that they've gone through all of the mysteries. They revealed everything, but maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. But we'll see. One Piece? No, I'm not gonna start that. That is way too long. Yeah, that's even longer than Naruto. Alright, let's get started. So, in our story, what happened last week? So last week, our hero Ling Hu Chong was walking along with the granny, right? The granny that he hasn't seen the face of. Excuse me. So they're walking along, and they run into some people from the Shaolin school, right? And so there were some students of the Shaolin school and this great master from the Shaolin school, and they're walking along. They see them, and they get into a fight, right? They want to. The people from the Shaolin school want to capture the granny, so they fight. And it turns out the granny is pretty good, right? She's pretty good at fighting. But so she beats a bunch of the students from the Shaolin school. But when she fights with the great master, she loses. She's not that. She can't compete, right? So he's like taking her to task, and Ling Hu Chong sees it, and he jumps in to defend her, and they actually fight to a draw, right? And then the great master leaves, and stuff happens. I think she's injured, and Ling Hu Chong finds out that Granny is actually not a granny at all. Granny is actually a 17 to 18-year-old girl, all right, by the name of Ying Ying. So she's been lying to him this whole time, and looks like she's really into him. All right, he's kind of into her, I guess, right? But still, he still remembers Ling Shan, who is his younger apprentice sister, right? And they spend some cute, intimate moments together. She orders people to, like, her people. Apparently, she's very famous and very powerful in the unorthodox side of the martial world, and she orders everyone. She sends out the order to the world to kill Ling Hu Chong on sight. Now you would think, why would she do that? I thought she loves him, right? But she does love him. The only reason she orders that is that she wants him to stay by her side, right? If he's in danger for his life, he needs to spend all his time next to her. So that's basically what happened last time. Was there anything else? Yep, that's basically it. How's that? Do, 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 do. Avatar is amazing. Yeah, yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I'm in like the middle of season 2, I believe. Is there only 3 seasons of that? That's pretty short, right? That's good. So I should be halfway done with Avatar. Dun, 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 dun. Okie dokie. At the end, Losh says, at the end, she's crying because Ling Hu Chong is getting weaker every day. Oh yeah, Ling Hu Chong falls unconscious. That's true. All right. Chapter 18, Collaboration, Part 1. Wait a minute. Oh no, wait. My sound effects. Forgot to start it up. Oops. All right. Chapter 18, Collaboration, Part 1. During the next many days, Ling Hu Chong remained in a coma. Occasionally, he would regain slight consciousness, feeling as though his body was drifting high in the clouds, before slipping right back into the coma only moments later. Sometimes it felt as if someone was forcing water down his throat, while some other times he felt as though his entire body had been roasted on fire. Not only couldn't he move a muscle in his arms or legs, he didn't even have any strength to open his eyes. Okay, so he's in a coma. Let's see what happens. Then one day, when he was finally in his right mind, he felt someone grabbing tightly around his wrists and infusing 2 streams of burning hot energy into his body, each through an acupoint on one of his wrists. And instantly they clashed and collided fiercely with the streams of energy already inside his body. Feeling the ineffable pain, he opened his mouth and cried out loud, yet no sound came out of it, while the pain only worsened as though he was experiencing the combination of all tortures known to mankind at the same time. Yes, last week was the lame flirting. There was a lot of flirting last week. Very corny flirting. What is a coma? Oh, it's when you fall unconscious for a long time. I know that. Give me a harder one. Could Master and Master Wife have found a senior Grand Master to save my life? He thought. But where did Ying Ying go? And where are the Master and Master Wife? How about Little Apprentice Sister? As soon as the thought of Little Apprentice Sister came to his mind, the energy flow in his chest seethed hysterically, and he lost consciousness instantaneously. Thus, every day, someone came and infused more inner energy into his body, and at the last day came when he was much more clear-headed and was able to open his mouth to speak. Oh wait, what does that mean? Oh, and at last, the day came when he was more clear-headed and was able to open his mouth to speak. Many thanks to the senior master. Where am I? He opened his eyes slowly and then took in the glimpse of a much crinkled face which smiled gently at him. This face looked very familiar. Still in a daze, Ling Hu Chong gazed at him to take a better look, and before long he noticed that there was no hair on the man's head, only burning scars from incense sticks. The man was a Buddhist monk. The indistinct image of a man came to his mind. You are great Master Feng, he muttered. Very good, very good. You can recognize me now. I am Feng Sheng, the old monk replied in a smile, looking utterly gratified. Feng Sheng was the Shaolin master that he fought in the last chapter. So apparently he's being helped by this Grand Master. Yeah, you are Great Master Feng Sheng, Ling Hu Cheng repeated. By then he had just realized that he was inside a small room. A small oil lamp on the table lit the room with dim yellowish glow, and he was lying on the bed under a cotton-padded quilt. How do you feel? Feng Sheng asked. I feel better now. Where am I? Ling Hu Cheng asked. You are inside the Shaolin Temple, Feng Sheng answered. I am inside the Shaolin Temple? Where's Ying Ying? How did I come to the Shaolin Temple? Ling Hu Cheng asked in amazement. You have only regained your consciousness a moment ago. It would be wise to restrain your thoughts so as to not exhaust yourself and to avoid any possibility of relapse. Everything can wait till later, Feng Sheng smiled. Henceforth, Feng Sheng would come to the small room every day to work on Ling Hu Cheng's injuries using his own energy, once in the morning and once in the evening. A fortnight later, Ling Hu Cheng was already able to sit up and eat, drink without any help. But every time when he asked about the whereabouts of Ying Ying and how he had ended up in the temple, Feng Sheng would not answer, but only smile. All right, chat is talking about pie all of a sudden, for some reason. One day, after Feng Sheng had infused his inner energy into Ling Hu Cheng's body, he said, Young hero Ling Hu, by now your life has been temporarily preserved, but the old monk's kung fu is only limited and still could not dissolve the heterogeneous energy streams inside your body. At the moment, any deferral would count as a gain, but I am afraid that within the period of 1 year, your internal injuries would have a relapse, and by then, even the Buddha himself would not be able to help you. Ping One Finger, Dr. Ping, told me the very same thing. That very day, Great Master has done his utmost to cure me, and I can never be thankful enough to what Great Master has done for me. The lifespan of any man is his destiny. Even if Great Master had greater inner energy, you wouldn't have been able to turn heaven's will, Ling Hu Cheng nodded. We members of the Buddhist order only believe in karma, not heaven's will. Feng Sheng shook his head. I have already told you that day when we first met that the abbot of our temple, senior apprentice brother Feng Zheng, has profound inner power. If he finds you a part of his karma and is willing to teach you the secret of the tendon-altering sutra, then even one's tendons and muscles can be altered, much less dissolving heterogeneous energy inside. I'll bring you to pay a formal visit to the abbot. I hope you will answer him wisely. Ling Hu Cheng had long heard of the grand name of the Shaolin Temple abbot, Great Master Feng Zheng. Thank you very much for introducing me, Great Master, he said joyously. Even if it's not in my karma for Great Master Abbot to look upon me with favor, just being able to pay a visit to this accomplished hierarch of the present age is already good luck that is hard to come by. Slowly he got off his bed, dressed himself, and then followed the Great Master Feng Sheng out of the small room. As soon as he stepped out of the small room, he was bathed in the warm and dazzling sunshine. It almost felt as though he had just entered into another world, and his spirit soared. Still feeling sore and limp in his legs, he walked in slow paces and looked around along the way. The temple had many hall buildings, and each of the hall buildings looked majestic and magnificent. They met many monks on their way, and every time, far before they even got there, those monks would move out of the way and bow to Feng Sheng with their palms together in a Buddhist greeting, holding him in reverence and sticking to etiquette. After walking through 3 long corridors, they arrived outside a stone building. Fangshang requests an audience with apprentice Brother Abbot, Fangshang said to the young Buddhist novice standing outside of the building. The young Buddhist novice went inside to report and soon returned. Abbot is happy to have your presence, he said, putting his palms together in greeting. Ling Huchong followed Fangshang and entered the building. Then a short, old monk, sitting on a cattail hassock in the middle, caught his attention. Fangshang here shows his respect to apprentice Brother Abbot, and I'd like you to meet the head apprentice of the Huashan school, young hero Ling Huchong. Fangshang bowed and saluted. Ling Huchong knelt down on his knees right away and kowtowed respectfully. Abbot Fangzheng raised himself slightly and extended his right arm in greeting. Oh no, another old voice. I can't do 2 old voices. Young hero, no need for excessive courtesy. Please, sit down. After Ling Huchong finished kowtowing, he took a seat on the cattail hassock to the right of Fangsheng and shot another glance at Abbot Fangzheng. The man had a thin face with a kind and amiable look, which gave no indication as to how old the man really was. What is a hassock? Ah, god damn it. Let's see if we can figure this out. A hassock, you see. I think it's a little thing that, you know how in Buddhist temples you have this little, the round pillow that they sit on? I think that's a hassock. Do you think so? Oh, I was so close! Wait. What is the difference between an ottoman and a hassock? Is it a footstool? Oh, let's look up. How about Buddhist? Hey, look! Yo! I was right. I was right. It's those things that monks sit on. Look at that. Look at that. I'm a genius, you guys. I'm a genius. That's a hassock. Is it sock related? No. All right, where was I? And a thin face. Okay. Who would have thought that this so well-known hierarch looks so mediocre? Without prior knowledge, who would have believed that he turns out to be the headmaster of the #1 martial arts school in the entire martial world? Ling Huchong thought to himself secretly. Then he heard Great Master Fangsheng's voice. After the last 3 months of... Well, how did I do his voice again? After the last 3 months of nursing and nourishing, young hero Ling Hu is feeling much better now. Did I stay in a coma for over 3 months? I thought it was only 20-something days, Ling Huchong thought to himself, feeling astounded. Excellent, Fangzheng replied. Turning his head toward Ling Huchong, he said, Young hero Ling Hu, your respectful master, Mr. Yue, the headmaster of the Huashan school, is an upright man who never stooped to flattery. His clean fame is well known to the entire martial world. I have always admired him very much. Thank you for your kind words. Ling Huchong stood up and bowed. I had been unconscious due to my severe injuries, and I owe a great debt of gratitude to Great Master Feng Shang for saving my life, but I had no idea that 3 months have passed. May I ask you if my master and master wife are well?" Even though he shouldn't have asked an outsider about the well-being of his own master and master wife, feeling very concerned about them, he still couldn't help but ask. "I heard that Mr. Yue, Madam Yue, and the Huashan apprentices are in the Fujian province at this moment," Feng Zheng replied. "Many thanks, Great Master Abbot." Ling Hucheng felt relieved right away, but then immediately after, a feeling of sadness welled up in his heart. So, master and master wife have brought little apprentice sister to apprentice brother Lin's home at last, he thought to himself. "Young hero Linghu, please sit down," Feng Zheng said gently. "Apprentice brother Feng Shang told me that young hero showed most excellent sword art skills and has truly mastered the skills taught by Grandmaster Feng of Huashan. That is so gratifying." "You flatter me," Ling Hucheng answered. "Grandmaster Feng has lived in seclusion for many years. I had thought that the venerable Grandmaster had passed away. It is such a pleasure to hear that he is still with us in this world," Feng Shang said. "Yes," Ling Hucheng acknowledged. "Young hero, after you had your injuries, your healer had gone about the wrong way in curing you, leaving the many conflicting inner energy streams inside you that cannot be easily dissolved. Apprentice brother Feng Shang has explained it all to me. After careful consideration, I came to the realization that only after you begin training in the secret kung fu of our school, the Tendon Altering Sutra, will you be able to use your own inner power to dissolve them gradually. If we use any external source of inner energy and force it upon young hero's body, it would be like drinking poison to quench thirst and cause more suffering. For the last 3 months, apprentice brother Feng Shang used his own inner energy to extend your life, but after he infused his energy into your body, he had only added another heterogeneous energy stream inside you. If you try gathering your energy now, you'll see what I mean." Oh no, he has another source of energy inside him. That makes what? 9? 9 now? Ling Hucheng gave it a try, and just as Feng Zheng had said, he immediately felt waves of inner energy surging inside his lower stomach, clash with each other, completely out of his control. Agonizing pain soon swept over him, his body trembling wildly as cold sweats streamed down his forehead. "The old Buddhist monk is so incompetent, and only caused young hero more pain and suffering," Feng Shang said apologetically, putting his palms together. "Please don't say that, Great Master," Ling Hucheng replied hurriedly. "For my well-being, you worked with all your heart and did everything you could, exhausting precious energy of your own that took a long time to cultivate. I have only been granted a new lease on life thanks to Great Master's kindness." "I really don't deserve that," said Feng Shang. "Grandmaster Feng granted me great benevolence many years ago. What I did couldn't even repay a fraction of my debt of gratitude to Grandmaster Feng." At these words, Feng Zheng held up his head. This Grandmaster Feng is Feng Qingyang, the guy who taught Ling Hucheng his sword art. This is not the Shaolin master that he's talking about. At these words, Feng Zheng held up his head. "Why haven't you ascended the meanings of benevolence and rancor? Benevolence is karma, while rancor is also karma. Rancor should not be persisted in, while benevolence need not be persisted in either. All things in the mortal world are as transient as a fleeting cloud. There is no benevolence." Excuse me. or rancor after death. Yes, many thanks for the advice, senior apprentice brother, Feng Sheng answered. We members of the Buddhist order believe that compassion is the principle of life, so with the knowledge of young heroes' internal injuries, we will aid to the best we can, Feng Sheng said slowly. The divine art of the tendon-altering sutra was written by the venerable Bodhidharma, the first ancestor of the Zen sect of Mahayana in the East region, and inherited by the second ancestor of the Zen sect, Great Master Hui Kei. Great Master Hui Kei had a previous Buddhist name called Shen Guang. He was from Luoyang. Having been an expert in the doctrine of Confucius and Mencius since young, he was especially proficient in understanding profound theories. At the time when first ancestor, Bodhidharma, resided in the Shiben temple, Great Master Shen Guang went to the temple to make an application for increase. Seeing that Great Master Shen Guang had been studying heterogeneously with many preconceived ideas rooted deeply, and was too self-assured, which would make a great obstacle in learning the true ideas of Zen, first ancestor Bodhidharma refused him at once. Great Master Shen Guang entreated for a long time, yet still could not cross the threshold, so he drew his sword and chopped his own left arm off. Ling Hucheng uttered a cry of shock, thinking to himself, that was some fortitude Great Master Shen Guang had shown in search of Buddhist principles and truths. His wholeheartedness finally moved first ancestor Bodhidharma, Feng Sheng continued, who accepted him as his student and renamed him to Hui Kei. Thus, second ancestor Hui Kei was able to inherit the mantle of the first ancestor, Bodhidharma, and carry on the teachings of Zen principles. What the second ancestor had learned from the first ancestor was the correct reason of the Buddhist doctrine, using the teaching in the Lankavatara Sutra for introspection and for realizing one's true nature. Even though the name of our schools is martial arts skills is widely known, it is in fact only a superficial study that is extremely insignificant. First ancestor Bodhidharma only taught his apprentices ways to strengthen and invigorate their bodies. When the body is strengthened, the mind becomes clever, and when the mind becomes clever, it is easier to comprehend. But many later disciples often became infatuated with martial arts, so as to attend to trifles and neglect the essentials, therefore gave no consideration to the original purpose of first ancestors' martial arts teaching. Pity. What a pity. Oh my god, there's so many questions. What is rancor? Oh crap. Rancor, I suppose, means anger? Means anger? Right? Bitterness or resentfulness, especially when long-standing. I think that counts. That counts. Alright, what else? What else, you bastards? Amiable. Amiable means like friendly or pleasant. I'm pretty sure I'm right on that. Amiable. Yeah, friendly, pleasant. Oh, both exact words I used. Rancor is the wait, what? Isn't Rancor that creature from Star Wars? You guys know what I'm talking about? Oh, it's right here, right here. This guy, right? Oh wait. Am I wrong? Rancor, Star Wars. Yeah. It's that creature. Yeah. Heterogeneous. It's the opposite of homogeneous. The homogeneous means all the same. So if you have a bunch of things and they're homogeneous, they're the same. But if they're heterogeneous, they're all different. Yeah, I think that's pretty easy. Heterogeneous. Yeah, diverse in character or content. Yeah, the opposite of homogeneous. Since when did Linfamy get smart? That's right. That's right, you guys. You didn't catch me once. Give me some harder words. At that word, Feng Cheng shook his head again and again with emotion. After a long pause, he finally went on. After first ancestor passed away and returned to heaven, second ancestor stumped upon a volume of Buddhist scripture by first ancestors' Cat-tail Hasuk, and that was the Tendon Altering Sutra. This volume had very abstruse argumentation and principles, and even after second ancestor studied it assiduously, he still could not understand it. But he knew that if first ancestor had left this volume of scripture next to the stone wall after 9 years of strict meditation, it simply had to be extraordinary, even though it had few words. So, second ancestor traveled all over many famous mountains and peaks in search of well-accomplished and eminent monks who could understand the true significance within. But at the time, second ancestor himself was already a well-accomplished and eminent monk. Even he couldn't understand the scripture after cudgeling his brain. It was only harder to try to find someone with even higher intelligence and more profound understanding than him. Hence, for 20 years, second ancestor searched in vain, and the mystery in the volume of scripture remained unsolved. One day, with the ultimate karma, second ancestor was able to meet an Indian monk named Bansi Midi on Mount Ame in Sichuan. And when they discussed Buddhist studies, they were congenial to each other. So, second ancestor took out the Tendon Altering Sutra and studied intensively together with Bansi Midi on top of the golden peak of Mount Ame. The two eminent Buddhist monks enlightened and inspired each other a great deal, and were able to gain a thorough understanding after 49 days. Merciful Buddha, thank Buddha. Putting his palms together, Feng Cheng praised. He's given us like a lesson in what the Tendon Altering Sutra is. What is cudgeling? Cudgeling is like beating your brain, right? He's where is that? Where did he use? Yeah, after cudgeling his brain. So a cudgel is like a hammer thing, I believe. The cudgeling your brain is like beating your brain. Dun, 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 dun. Cudgeling. To beat with a cudgel. There you go. Aha! But what great master Bansi Midi explained were mostly theories of Zen. It was after another 12 years when a second ancestor chanced upon a young martial arts expert in the city of Chang'an, and after a thorough discussion that lasted 3 days and 3 nights, was he able to apprehend the profound martial arts theories in the Tendon Altering Sutra to the full extent. After a pause, he said, and that young man was none other than Li Jing, who made Wei Lord for rendering his outstanding service to the founding of the Tang dynasty, and later assisting Emperor Taizong in putting down the Turks' rebellion. Wei Lord Li's exceptional achievements probably will also have to be attributed to the benefits he received from reading the Tendon Altering Sutra. Wow, Ling Hucheng muttered as he thought to himself. Turned out the tendon-altering sutra had such historical background. Fang Zheng continued. The tendon-altering sutra Kung Fu utilizes all channels, passages of all the channels, passages of one's body, and bonds the spirits of the 5 internal organs. Comprehensive, yet does not disperse, cycling through, though yet insists. Yeah, what? Comprehensive, yet does not disperse, cycling though, I believe. Though yet incessant. Energy originates from the within, while blood nourishes from the outside. Once the practitioner masters the tendon-altering sutra Kung Fu, power can be launched at a change of thought. The assembly and the release become parts of a natural course, and complete themselves without conscious commands, just like the rising of the tide or the exploding of the thunder. Young hero, once one masters the tendon-altering sutra, it is almost like a small boat floating among gigantic waves of the ocean. When the angry waves surge about, the small boat naturally moves high and low accordingly, never makes an effort. Even if the boat had wanted to make an effort, where would the strength be coming from, and where would the strength be used upon? Ling Hucheng nodded again and again, knowing that the principle in the metaphor was broad and deep, and was also interlinked with the sword art theory Fang Qingyang had explained to him before. Just because the tendon-altering sutra contains such immense power, in the last several hundred years it has not been taught to anyone, except the right ones, and the ones who had the karma, Fang Zheng went on. Without the blessed karma, even outstanding and exceptional members of our own school cannot be taught the secrets of the sutra. Junior apprentice brother Fang Sheng would make a good example. He already has high kung fu skills and has always held his abstains rigorously. An outstanding disciple of our school he is, indeed, yet our master didn't teach him anything from the sutra. Yes, Ling Hucheng does not have such blessed karma. I dare not ask for it, absurdly, Ling Hucheng replied. Not so. Young hero is one with the karma. Fang Zheng shook his head. A mixed feeling of shock and delight surged in Ling Hucheng's chest. His heart thumped heavily, and he couldn't believe that he actually was one with the karma for his ultimate kung fu of the Shaolin school, when eminent monks such as Great Master Feng Sheng didn't even have the fortune to learn it. The Buddha opens his wisdom to the vast audiences, but only ones with the karma can attain the truth. Feng Zheng spoke slowly. Young hero is the disciple of the venerable Grand Master Feng. That is the one element of the karma. Young hero ended up coming to our Shaolin temple. That is another element of the karma. Young hero will die unless he studies the tendon-altering sutra, while apprentice brother Fang Sheng could benefit from learning the sutra, but wouldn't suffer from not learning the sutra either. And the difference in between is yet one more element of the karma. Young hero Ling Hu is blessed with the ultimate fortune. Fang Sheng is gratified for you, Fang Sheng said, putting his palms together in a Buddhist greeting. Junior apprentice brother, Fang Sheng said, it is in your nature that you always persist in things. You have never been able to see through the ultimate principle in the 3 ways of vimukta, void, markless, and non-action. Thus not able to overcome the barrier of understanding the true meaning of life and death. It's not that I am not willing to teach you the tendon-altering sutra. I am only afraid that once you start training in this superior kung fu, you will become infatuated with it, hence neglect the proper duties of Buddhist meditation. Thank you, senior apprentice brother, for the edification. A look of anxiety appeared on Fang Sheng's face as he stood up and spoke in an utterly respectful voice. Feng Zheng nodded slightly to show his encouragement. He waited for a good while, until a smile crept back onto Feng Zheng's lips, before giving another nod and letting a small smile blossom on his own face. Turning his head toward Ling Huchong, he spoke again. Oh, so it looks like even though this other guy, this Feng Zheng monk, is not able to learn this superior kung fu, he's gonna teach it to Ling Huchong. Or the Feng Zheng, his brother is going to teach it to Ling Huchong. There was originally a significant obstacle in this matter, but this obstacle no longer stood in our way. Ever since first ancestor Bodhidharma, this tendon-altering sutra was only taught to members of the Shaolin school, never to anyone outside. I cannot let this stipulation end in my hands. That's why young hero must join the Shaolin school of Mount Songshan and become a layman apprentice of the Shaolin school. After a short pause, he spoke again. If young hero does not find the old monk loathsome, then you can become an apprentice of mine as a member of the Guo class. You can change your name to Linghu Guo Chong. Oh, he wants him to join the school. Uh-oh. I don't think that's going to happen. Congratulations, young hero. Feng Zheng uttered a cry of joy. Senior apprentice brother has only taken in 2 apprentices all his life, and that happened over 30 years ago. As the final apprentice of apprentice brother Abbott, not only would you be able to learn the superior kung fu of the tendon-altering sutra, the 12 consummate Shaolin skills my apprentice brother is an expert in, can also be passed down to you, according to your abilities. By then, young hero will certainly be able to brighten the name of our school and add an extraordinary splendor to the martial world. Great Master Abbott, I can't be thankful enough for your great kindness, but I am already an apprentice of the Huashan school, and it would be inappropriate for me to join another school and study under a new master. Ling Huchong stood up and replied respectfully. Well, that is exactly the significant obstacle I had just mentioned. Feng Zheng let out a slight smile. Young hero, you probably don't know it yet, but you are no longer an apprentice of the Huashan school. Oh, I feel like we need a dun 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 sound effect for that. Why is he no longer an apprentice of the Huashan school? Ling Huchong was thunderstruck. Why do you say that I am no longer an apprentice of the Huashan school? His voice trembled as he spoke. Young hero, please take a look at this. Taking a letter out from his sleeve pocket, Feng Zheng answered. He gave his palm a gentle wave, and the letter glided toward Ling Huchong in a straight line. Oh, look at that. Showing off his power. As soon as Ling Huchong caught the letter in his hands, a shock shot down his spine. Gasping with astonishment, he couldn't help but think, this great Master Abbott has fathomless inner energy indeed. Even with just a thin letter, was he able to pass over such vigorous inner energy? How amazing. Looking down at the letter in his hands, he saw the red seal on the envelope that carried the words, Seal of the Huashan School Head Master. There were also characters in the middle of the envelope that said, To Great Master Abbott of the Shaolin School. These characters were written with an upright form and dignified style, and were precisely the handwriting of his master, Yue Bu Chun. Faintly feeling a foreboding sensation, he drew the letter out with trembling hands and read it. The sinking feeling in his stomach settled in as he read on, not able to believe that this would ever happen. After reading it the second time, he suddenly felt everything around him began spinning uncontrollably, and before he knew it, he had already collapsed to the floor with a loud thump. By the time he woke up again, he found himself in the arms of great Master Feng Zheng. Struggled back to his feet, Ling Huchong couldn't help but break into a loud cry. May I ask the reason for young heroes' sorrow? Had any mishap happened to your respectful master? Feng Shang asked. Great master, please take a look. Handing the letter to Feng Shang, Ling Hucheng muttered, choking with sobs. Taking the letter from Ling Hucheng, Feng Shang took a good look at the letter, which said, Yue Buchun, the headmaster of the Huashan School, here presents his greetings to the headmaster of the Shaolin School. As the headmaster of the Huashan School with unmerited reputation, I have not been sending my regards to your highness so as not to disturb your peace. This letter is in regard to the defiant apprentice of our school, Ling Hucheng, who, with the disobedient character, had been repeatedly breaking school rules and even took up with evildoers and associated with brigands. Wu Chun must have been an inept master, because even after strict reprimands and stern punishments, I still failed to show effect in order to uphold the righteousness of the martial world and the clean name of an orthodox school. I hereby expel the defiant apprentice Ling Hucheng from the Huashan School. From now on, this defiant apprentice is no longer a member of our school. If he continues to collude with evil and bring calamity to the world, I request all friends of the Orthodox schools to eliminate him with no mercy. With great anxiety and shame, I am writing this letter, and the words could not express my feelings to the full extent. I wish for your forgiveness. All right, let's take a break, you guys. 5-minute break. And I'll be right back. I am back. Oh, okay. The big revelation happened last time, just like 5 minutes ago, right? Looks like Ling Hucheng has been kicked out of the school. He's no longer a member of the Huashan School. And his master really doesn't like him. Poor Ling Hucheng. Look what I have. I have some wine. We finished the fireball finally last week. So now we need some other form of alcohol. All right. Cheers. All right. What kind? Well, you can read it. It's a Sauvignon. It's from Napa, which is near where I live, actually. A few hours drive away. There you go. Yeah. Do I have a special cup to drink with that wine? I'm just using this. I don't know. I could use a wine glass, I guess. I'm drinking early. I don't know. I just feel like drinking. Napa is a nice place. Yeah, it's very quaint. If you go to Napa, there are hills and little rolling hills of grapevines and vineyards. It looks very quaint. It looks very nice. Where's my rhino horn cup? Oh, wait. I never had a rhino horn cup. I have this. This is from Game of Thrones. This is my house, House Stark. Do I have 8 special wine cups? Not yet. I'm still collecting them. I have great taste in wine. I know nothing about wine. I don't know anything about wine. Honestly, they all taste the same. Not all the same, not exactly the same, but they're all very similar. Yeah, I don't really care which ones I drink. You guys know, like, I don't know, they did some study a while ago. I read it somewhere where they tried to they blindfolded people, and not just normal people. I think they blindfolded experts like wine tasters, and they had them drink different wines, and they would have to tell you what kind of wine it was, but they're blindfolded so they can't see it, and they're all wrong. Like they answered it all wrong. Like it seems like there's a lot of BS in the wine tasting community. Yeah, I believe like they had problems differentiating between red wine and white wine, which is really weird to me. I'm not sure. I think they taste different. Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe if you blindfold me, I can't tell the difference between red and white wine. California is the best state. That's right. We are the best here in the West. All right. So Ling Hu Chong has just been kicked out of his school. Let's play a bell for the end of his career in the Huashan school. This also took Fang Sheng by great surprise. He wanted to comfort Ling Hu Chong, but failed to find any words. Giving the letter back to Fang Zheng, he took a glance at Ling Hu Chong, whose face was now covered with streams of tears, and heaved a long sigh. Alas, young hero, you really shouldn't have affiliated with members of the Darkwood Cliff. Every headmaster of the Orthodox schools must have received similar letters from your respectful master, and have already informed all their members. Ah, crap. It's already spread through social media. Even if you were perfectly fit, as soon as you walk out of this door, it will be like walking on thorns every step of the way, and all members of the Orthodox schools will consider you a fatal enemy. Fang Zheng spoke again. These words stunned Ling Hu Chong. He immediately... Oh yeah, right. Yeah, he was not only kicked out of the school. Like, his master requested all the friends of the Orthodox schools to eliminate him with no mercy. Sucks for our hero here. He has been cancelled, yes. Yes, he has. These words stunned Ling Hu Chong. He immediately remembered hearing similar words from Ying Ying by the mountain gully. By now, not only all the heterodox school members would be on his heels with a mission to kill him, all the orthodox school members would also consider him a fatal enemy. As vast as the world under heaven was, there seemed to have not a place he could shelter himself. Then he remembered the deep love of master and master-wife, who could almost be considered his foster parents. They not only taught him kung fu, but also brought him up from a child. But he had been willful and committed all kinds of outrages, which ultimately caused his expulsion from the Huashan school. He could imagine in his mind how master must have felt more pain and sorrow than him when master wrote those letters. Feeling of grief and shame welled in his heart. He almost itched to bump just bump his head against a wall to kill himself. Out of his tear-filled eyes, he could vaguely make out the expression of deep pity on Fang Zheng and Fang Shang's faces, and suddenly remembered something. Liu Jiangfeng wanted to have his gold basin hand-washing ceremony. Remember that from the very beginning? So he could quit the martial world, but only because he had taken up with the demon cult's elder Chu Yang. He ended up dying under the Songshan school's sword. It was obvious that righteousness and evil were not irreconcilable. Even someone as powerful as prestigious as Liu Chengfeng could not escape the fatal destiny, much less he, an isolated young man, not worth mentioning and without any help. Let alone the fact that the 5 Tyrant Ridge gathering of heresy could only be worse. The sea of bitterness has no boundaries. If one only turns his head, there is the shore, Fang Zheng said slowly. As long as one awakes to his errors, even if he were an unpardonable, wicked person, Buddha will not turn his back to him. You are still young, and only took a wrong step in life for the moment, and affiliated with the wrong kind of people mistakenly. That's not to say that you won't be able to make a fresh start. Your affiliation with the Huashan school has made a thorough break. Henceforth, as a member of our Shaolin school, you can thoroughly rectify your errors and be reborn again. I am sure it's not likely that someone in the martial world would want to make trouble for you. He had spoken these words in a very casual manner, yet these words showed a sign of stateliness. Right now I have nowhere to go, Ling Huchang thought to himself. If I rely upon the Shaolin school for protection, not only would I be able to learn the superior kung fu to save my life, with the prestige of the Shaolin school, indeed, no one would dare to make trouble for Great Master Fang Zheng's apprentice. Remember, the Shaolin school is like the #1 school in the martial world. But right at the moment, a feeling of unyielding suddenly rose from within his chest. He thought, if a man cannot even stand on his own feet between heaven and earth, and has to rely upon another school for protection and shame, how can he be called a true man ever again? If the thousands of people in the martial world want to kill me, so be it. I'll just let them come and kill me. Master doesn't want me anymore, and has expelled me from the Huashan school. So what? I'll simply wander about, alone by myself. Oh, is that a reference to the title? The Smiling Proud Wanderer? At that thought, he couldn't help but feel righteous ardor surging up his throat, making him thirsty. All he wanted to do was to drink a few dozens of strong liquor, and the thoughts about life, death, school, or faction were all cast behind his back. At the instant, even Yue Lingshan, the one he had always borne in his mind constantly, seemed to have become a complete stranger. Getting back onto his feet, he knelt down in front of Fang Zheng and Fang Sheng, and then kowtowed respectfully. Believing that he had made up his mind to join the Shaolin school, Fang Zheng and Fang Sheng both revealed a smiling face. Since I am not even wanted by my own master, I am too shamed to join another school. I can't thank the 2 great masters enough for your great kindness and mercy. Please accept my farewell. Ling Huchang stood up and declared in a loud voice. Fang Zheng was astounded, having not expected this young man to show no fear of death. Young hero, this matter concerns your life and death. Please don't be swayed by personal feelings, Fang Sheng persuaded sincerely. But Ling Huchang only replied with a burst of laughter. Turning on his heels, he walked out of the room. With his chest filled with grievance, his steps became unexpectedly nimble, and he went out of the Shaolin Temple in big strides. Just left. As soon as he stepped out of the temple, a feeling of desolation welled up in his heart. Looking up into the sky, he laughed, thinking, all the Orthodox members consider me a vital enemy. while all the heretical members want to kill me. Ling Huchang most likely won't even make it to the end of the day. I'd like to see who would be the one taking away my life. He checked his pockets. There was no money in his pocket, no sword by his waistband, and even the short zither given to him as a present by Ying Ying was nowhere to be seen. It wouldn't have been overstating to say that by then he owed nothing in this world, and had not a concern whatsoever. He began walking down Mount Songshan. At the time of dusk, he was already far from the Shaolin temple. The walk exhausted him and also made him feel very hungry. Where should I go about finding something to eat? He thought to himself. Suddenly, sounds of footsteps thumped as 7 or 8 men ran toward him in quick steps from the west. All of them were dressed up in tight robes, their weapons tying to their backs. If you want to kill me, it's better that you attack now, so as to save me the trouble of looking for food. Even if I eat my fill, I am going to get killed anyway. Why hold a candle to the sun? Ling Huchang thought to himself. Stopping at the middle of the road, he stood, arms akimbo, and shouted, Ling Huchang is right here. Go ahead, come and kill me. But quite to his surprise, when these men ran by him, they simply cast a quick glance at him before making a detour around him. This man is a dummy, one man muttered. Right, we better not let unnecessary incidents delay the more important matter, another man answered. It'll be terrible if we let him get away, a third man said. Only moments later, the group of men had run into the distance. Turns out that they are after somebody else, Ling Huchang thought to himself. Just when the sounds of footsteps from those men finally died down, sounds of hoofbeats suddenly arose from the west, and soon 5 horses galloped by him like a gust of wind. After the horses had dashed out another 100 feet or so, one of the horses turned around all of a sudden. The rider was a middle-aged woman. Excuse me, mister, you didn't happen to see an old man in a white robe, did you? He is quite thin and tall, and also carries a scimitar by his waist, she asked. No, I didn't, Ling Huchang shook his head. Without another word, the woman turned the horse around and raced after the other 4 riders. Well, it seems that they are pursuing an old man in a white robe. I don't have anything to do anyway. Might as well just go watch the fun, Ling Huchang thought to himself. And at that thought, he began walking toward the east. This is kind of a good feeling, right? He's kind of free now, so you can just walk anywhere and just go anywhere, right? So he's like, oh, this looks fun. Might as well go watch. He walked for about half an hour when another group of men, over a dozen of them, caught up with him in a small trot, and they went right past him. Howdy, bro. Did you happen to see an old man in a white robe? He is quite thin and tall, and has a scimitar by his waist. A man in his 50s turned his head back and asked. No, I didn't, Ling Huchang answered. After another while, when he arrived at a fork in the road, sounds of horse bells rose from the northwest corner as 3 horses dashed along the road at high speed. All 3 riders were young men in their 20s. Hey, I've got a question. Have you seen a... The leading rider waved his horsewhip in the air and asked, A thin, tall old man in a white robe with a scimitar by his waist, right? Ling Huchang finished the sentence for him. That's right. You know where he is? All looking utterly joyful, the 3 asked in unison. Sorry, I have not seen him, Ling Huchang said with a sigh. The leading rider's temper hit the roof. God damn it! Are you making fun of me? If you haven't seen him, how could you have described him? He bellowed. Why couldn't I know the description before actually seeing him? Ling Huchang grinned. The leading young man raised a horsewhip in his hand and was about to whip it at Ling Huchang's head when another young man's voice rose. Second brother, don't complicate things. Let's get back to the chase. Hurry! The young man holding the horsewhip let out a disgruntled snort as he waved the whip and hit the air and then rode off together with the other 2. Why are all these people going after an old man in a white robe? What did he do? Ling Hucheng thought to himself. To follow them and watch the fun will certainly be entertaining, but if they realize that I am Ling Hucheng, I bet they would kill me on the spot. At that thought, the feeling of fear started stewing in his chest, but then he thought better of it. At this stage, both the Orthodox schools and the heretic schools want me dead. Dodging about might enable me to eke out a miserable life for a few more days. But eventually, I'll still have to face my bitter end, the final death blow. What good is it to live a few more days of a life filled with dread? I'd rather accept the circumstances with goodwill and see who I'll lose my life to. Having made up his mind, he walked on, following the dust kicked up by the 3 horses right away. Later, several more groups of people went past him in the same direction, and all asked him the same thing about the thin, tall, old man in a white robe, with a scimitar by his waist. All of these different groups of people are chasing after the old man. None of them knows where he is, yet all of them are following the same direction. That is so strange, Ling Hucheng thought. He walked on for another mile or so, crossing through a wood of pine trees, when suddenly a vast wilderness and a dense mass of people appeared in front of his eyes. There were at least 600 or 700 people in the crowd, but the wilderness was so large that the 600 or 700 people in the middle appeared to have only occupied a tiny spot of it. A straight, broad road led directly to the large crowd, so Ling Hucheng simply walked forward along the road, and as he walked closer, the scene became clearer. In the middle of the crowd stood a small pavilion, the kind used as a wayside shelter for travelers to take a rest in. The building of the pavilion appeared simple and crude. The large crowd of people surrounded the pavilion in a circle, yet kept a good distance from it. Dozens of feet or so, and nobody closed in on it. After walking another 100 feet closer, Ling Hucheng finally saw him. An old man in a white robe sat in the middle of the pavilion all by himself, drinking wine next to a small table. Whether he had a scimitar by his waist, Ling Hucheng could not tell from the distance. Even though he was sitting down, he still looked as tall as a person in average height, standing up. Feeling of reverence swelled up in Ling Hucheng's heart. Surrounded by so many enemies, the old man was still able to drink his wine in such a calm and unhurried manner. Among all the heroes Ling Hucheng had heard or seen of throughout his life, rarely had one displayed such exceptional heroic spirit. He slowly walked forward and shouldered his way into the crowd. Everyone in the crowd stared at the old man in the white robe with fixed eyes, and no one paid the slightest attention to Ling Hucheng. Ling Hucheng took a good look at the old man. He had a thin face, a bush of sparse gray beard, long enough to reach his chest, fluttered under his chin in the breeze. Holding the wine cup in his hand, he gazed at the distance where the horizon met with the blue sky, without casting even a glance at the crowd surrounding him. He carried a pack on his back, but there was no scimitar by his waist. Turned out that he didn't even have a weapon with him. Ling Hucheng had no idea about the old man's name or origin, nor any clue why so many fellow martial people would come after him, nor whether the man was good or evil. He simply admired the heroic spirit the old man had put on display. The self-assurance he had shown, as though he was just drinking by himself alone, and there was no one else even present. And unconsciously, the feeling of mutual sympathy that a fellow sufferer also swelled up in his heart and consumed him. Taking big strides forward, he spoke loudly. "Hello there, senior master. Don't you feel lonely drinking all by yourself? Let me be your company and drink with you." Walking straight into the pavilion, Ling Hucheng cupped his hands toward the old man in greeting, and then sat down by the table. The old man turned his head around and shot a sharp side glance toward Ling Hucheng. What met his eyes was a weaponless and sick-faced young man he had never met before. He let out a snort as a slight look of surprise flashed by his face, but did not answer. Ling Hucheng picked up the wine kettle and filled the wine cup in front of the old man before filling a wine cup for himself. What's a scimitar? Oh, a scimitar is a sword. Kind of a curved sword. Yeah. You gotta go harder than that. There you go, that's a scimitar. Cheers! He raised his cup and toasted, emptying the contents of the wine cup down his throat in a swift swing. He drank it up in one gulp. The wine turned out to be a very strong liquor. Not only did he feel he didn't even know what the wine is. Not only did he feel as though his mouth had just been cut with sharp knives, as soon as the wine was poured in, he felt as though his entire stomach was on fire now. Excellent wine, he praised in a loud voice. Hey, idiot, get out! We are here to fight old Xiang to death. Don't be a hindrance. A big fellow outside the pavilion bawled in a husky voice. I am only drinking together with Senior Master Xiang. How did I become a hindrance for you? Ling Hucheng replied with a grin. He filled his cup and then poured the wine into his mouth once again. Excellent wine, he said with a thumbs up. Move aside, chap, if you don't want to die for nothing. We have Chief Dongfang's order to capture renegade Xiang Wenqian, and if anyone wants to make trouble or interfere, he is guaranteed a horrible death. A chilling voice rose from the left side. Ling Hucheng cast a glance at the origin of the voice and then caught sight of a thin, short man with a white face. The man was dressed in a black robe with a yellow band around his waist. There were 200 or 300 people standing next to him, all dressed in black robes, but their waistbands were in all kinds of different colors. Ling Hucheng suddenly remembered when he had met Elder Chu Yang of the demon cult outside of the town of Hangzhang. Chu was also dressed in the same kind of black robe, and he could vaguely remember that Chu also had a yellow band around his waist. The thin man said that he was following Chief Dongfang's order to capture a renegade. Then, of course, these people are all cult members of the demon cult. Remember, Chief Dongfang is the leader of the demon cult. Could this thin man have been an elder of the demon cult as well? Akimbo? Akimbo? Arms akimbo means like this, right? Like, what's up? What's up? I think so. Right? Oh, God. I'm not sure. Oh, no. I was close, though. Hands on the hips and elbows turned outwards. Oh, that was my other guess. Ah, you got me. You got me. So akimbo means hands on the hip. Like, with your hands on the hip, elbows turned outward. Incorrect. I was close, though. I was close. Good job. Good job. You caught me. I could have sworn it meant like this. That's one karaoke song. Filling his cup with wine, he drank it up a third time. Excellent wine, he praised, and then said to the old man in the white robe, Xiang Wenqian. Wait, in the white robe, Xiang Wenqian. Senior Master Xiang, I've drunk 3 cups of your wine. Many thanks, many thanks. That chap is the expelled apprentice of the Huashan school, Ling Hucheng, someone suddenly shouted out from the east end. Ling Hucheng cast a glance toward the direction of the voice and immediately recognized the man who had spoken out. It was Ho Ren Xiong, the apprentice of the Qincheng school. Since he paid more attention to the crowd with his glance, he also realized that among the people standing next to Ho Renxiong was many were also members of the Five Mountains Sword Alliance. Ling Huchong, a Taoist priest, spoke in a loud and clear voice. Your master said that you have taken up with evildoers, and he certainly said it right. This demon, Xiang Wenxian's murderous hands, are both covered with blood of chivalry members of the Orthodox schools. What are you doing staying together with him? If you don't get lost right now, we'll chop you into bits and pieces. Are you an uncle master of the Taishan school? I have never met this senior master Xiang before in my entire life. I've only stepped out because I saw the hundreds of you surrounding a man who was all by himself. What is that? And when did the Five Mountains Sword Alliance decide to collaborate with the demon cult? Aren't you afraid to become the laughingstock of all the heroes under heaven, taking on Senior Master Xiang, a single man with the combined force of both the Orthodox and the heretic schools? Ling Huchong replied. When did we ever collaborate with the demon's cult? The demon cult is here to capture a renegade of their cult. We are here to avenge for friends who have died under the devil's murderous hands. They do their thing and we do our thing. There's no relevance whatsoever, the Taoist priest rebuffed furiously. Good. As long as you fight him one-on-one, I'll just sit here, drink my wine, and watch the fun, Ling Huchong said. Who the hell do you think you are? Everybody, let's kill this chap before we get even with that devil Xiang, Ho Renxiong yelled. There would be no need to trouble so many people just to kill Ling Huchong, a single man. Brother Ho, you can just come and do it yourself, Ling Huchong said with a grin. Ho Renxiong knew very well that his own kung fu skills were inferior to that of Ling Huchong's learning. Ling Huchong's learning from his past experience with Ling Huchong in the wine house when he had sent him rolling down the stairs with a single kick and certainly dared not to challenge Ling Huchong all by himself. But he had no idea that the Ling Huchong now was far from the Ling Huchong then and had lost all his internal strengths. The others in the group seemed to have great scruples about Xiang Wenxian's kung fu skills, and none was bold enough to charge into the pavilion. Xiang Wenxian, when things have come down to this extent, you'd better go see the chief with us and ask for pardon from His Highness. There's still a chance that His Highness might spare your life. You are a great man in our cult. Would you rather see flesh and blood flying in all directions when we fight to the death so the outsiders can laugh their heads off? The thin man from the demon's cult shouted. Xian Wenxian only answered with a snort and gave a sip to the wine in his cup. As he raised his cup, something clanked, and that was when Ling Huchong noticed the iron shackles chained around his two wrists in astonishment. So he just escaped from his prison and hasn't even removed the shackles around his wrists, Ling Huchong thought to himself as compassion swelled up in his heart. This man is unable to defend himself. Why don't I help him fend off the attacks for a little while and just give away my life here in this muddled fight? At that thought, he stood up, arms akimbo by his waist, and said loudly, How can Senior Master Xiang fight you with his hands tied up in iron chains? Since I drank 3 cups of his great wine, I guess it will have to be my duty to give him a hand in his defense. Anyone who wants to lay a finger on Senior Master Xiang will have to kill Ling Huchong first. Seeing how Ling Huchong had come forward for him for no apparent reason in such a lunatic manner, Xian Wenxiang was taken by complete surprise. Hey boy, why do you help me? He asked in a whisper. Upon seeing injustice, draw one's sword to set right a wrong, Ling Huchong replied. Where's your knife then? Xian Wenxian asked. Oh, I use a sword. Too bad I don't have one. Ling Huchang replied. How are your skills in the sword art? Aren't you from the Huashan school? Then I am afraid your skills in the sword art won't be anything exceptional. Nothing exceptional. Besides, I have very severe injuries and have lost all my internal strengths, and that only makes the matter worse. Ling Huchang grinned. Man, you are an oddball. Did you know that? Fine, I'll go get a sword for you, Xian Wenxian replied. A white shadow suddenly flashed in front of everybody's eyes as Xiang Wenxian charged toward the crowd. Instantly, reflections from various blades twinkled as over a dozen weapons struck toward him. But Xiang Wenxian unexpectedly accelerated sideways and pounced on the Taoist priest from the Taishan school. The Taoist priest thrust his sword forward at once. With an agile sway, Xian Wenxian dodged the thrust and stepped behind the priest's back. He quickly threw his left elbow backward, which struck the middle of the Taoist priest's back in a loud thud. Waving his two arms slightly immediately after, he caught the Taoist priest's longsword with the iron chain, and with a swift push to the ground and using his left foot, he had leapt back into the pavilion. The entire series of moves were executed in such lightning-fast speed. The many fighters of the orthodox schools had the intention of intercepting him, but simply had no time for the reaction. One man was the fastest to react and chased after Xian Wenxian instantly. At the time Xian Wenxian had returned to the pavilion, he was only several feet from the pavilion. Raising the broadsword in his hand, he swung the blade at Xian Wenxian's back. But it was as if Xian Wenxian had eyes on his back. Without even looking back, he threw a back kick with his left foot, which struck right in the man's solar plexus, sending him flying in the air in a painful cry. The man had put all his strength into the fierce swing of his blade, and had no way of retracting the force in time. With a heavy thud, the knife followed through its course, and cut off the man's own right leg. Meanwhile, the Taoist priest from the Taishan school swayed a few times and then collapsed to the ground, blood gushing out continuously from his mouth. Thunderous cheers exploded among the demon cult's crowd. That's some handsome skills, right, Counselor Xiang? Dozens of excited voices shouted in unison. Xian Wenxian let out a slight grin and clenched his fist in greetings toward the crowd of demon cult members, acknowledging the loud cheers. The iron chain tied around his wrists clanked loudly. With a swing of his arm, Xian Wenxian threw the sword toward the table, and with a clatter, the sword tip cut into the table. Here you go, he said. Ling Huchang felt admiration growing inside him. This man dares to outface so many first-class masters. Turned out he truly has extraordinary skills, he thought inwardly, but he didn't reach out for the sword. Senior Master Xian possesses such superior kung fu skills. There is really no need for me to make a fool of myself. Goodbye, he said, clenching his fists in greetings. Before Xian Wenxian had a chance to reply, cold flashes from naked blades flickered as 3 longswords shot toward the pavilion. 3 apprentices of the Qincheng school, Ho Run Xiong among them, had launched their attacks. All 3 longswords were aimed at Ling Huchang. One pointed at the middle of his back, while the other 2 pointed at his lower back. The tips of all 3 swords were less than a foot from Ling Huchang. Ling Huchang, on your knees! Ho Run Xiong bellowed. After the shout, he pushed his longsword forward and the sword tip touched Ling Huchang's skin. Ling Huchang is a man of high virtues. Even though death is my destiny today, there's no way I'll let myself die from these despicable Qincheng people's swords, Ling Huchang thought to himself. At the moment, he was completely enveloped by the forces from the 3 swords. If he tried to turn around, then instantly, one sword would penetrate his chest, and the other 2 swords would cut into his lower abdomen. So he immediately let out a few laughs. Fine, I'll be on my knees, he replied. Bending his right knee slightly, Ling Huchang quickly retrieved the longsword on his table and gave it a swift swing behind his back. Instantaneously, the 3 hands of the Chinchang apprentices were cut off from their wrists and fell to the ground together with their 3 longswords. Oh, that sucks for them. Their faces turning completely pale, the 3 Chinchang apprentices couldn't even believe their eyes. Only freezing there for a moment from panic, they finally remembered to leap back. One of the Chinchang apprentices among the 3 was only about 18 or 19 years of age and instantly broke into a loud cry from the excruciating pain. Brother, it was you who wanted to kill me first, Ling Huchang sighed. Well, that's brutal. Like, he had no qualms just cutting off their hands. Excellent sword art, Xian Wenxian cheered, but then he said, the strength is too weak. Terrible inner strength. It's not terrible inner strength. There's no inner strength at all, Ling Huchang replied with a grin. Suddenly, Xian Wenxian let out a loud shout, and then dense clanking sounds from the iron chain followed. 2 men in black robes had leapt into the pavilion and launched a full-out attack at him. One wielded a pair of wrought iron maces, while the other one held a pair of iron plates in his hands. Both men used weapons of the ultra-heavy type. Sparks flew in all directions as the 4 pieces of weaponry clashed with Xian Wenxiang's iron chain. Xian Wenxiang dodged a few times in an attempt to get behind the man with iron maces, but the man put up a good defense line with his 2 maces, shielding all his vital points around his body. Having his 2 hands tied up, Xian Wenxian obviously had lost quite some agility and speed. More berating sounds rose, exploded from within the crowd of the demon cult members as another 2 men charged into the pavilion. Both of these 2 used octagonal copper hammers as their weapons, and both smashed their hammers downwardly at Xian Wenxian again and again. As soon as the 2 with 4 hammers joined the fight, the man wielding a pair of wrought iron maces immediately turned from defense to offense. Xian Wenxian ducked and darted within the limited space. Even though his movements were utterly clever and nimble, he still could not injure any one of his opponents. Every time when there was a crack for Xian Wenxian to take use of, as soon as he tried to exploit it and attacked one with his iron chain, the other 3 would throw themselves on him like madmen with no regard for their own safety. Such fighting techniques were as fierce as it could be. After they have exchanged a dozen or so moves, the leader of the demon cult crowd shouted, 8 spears, charge, all together. At that command, long spears in their tight grips, 8 men in black robes rushed into the pavilion from all 4 directions. North, south, east, and west. 2 long spears in each direction, all aimed at Xian Wenxian. Little friend, you better get out of here, Xian Wenxian shouted at Ling Huchang. Before his voice even died out, the 8 long spears had stabbed toward him all at once. In the meantime, the 4 copper hammers pounded toward his chest and stomach. The 2 iron maces swept toward his shin bones, and the 2 iron plates smashed toward his face, all vicious moves in all directions. At the moment, the 12 first-class fighters of the demon cult had spared neither effort nor mercy. Apparently, every one of them knew too well that fighting Xian Wenxian was the most dangerous thing in the entire world, and any second longer the fight lasted would only translate to another step closer to the gate of hell. How shameless! Seeing the many people attacking Xian Wenxian so ruthlessly at the chance for Xian Wenxian to come through with this getting slimmer by the second. Ling Huchang bawled. All of a sudden, Xian Wenxian spun his body in tremendous speed, and the iron chain around his wrists swung up and clanked loudly as it collided with the many weapons. His body almost looked like a peg top, spinning so rapidly that all everyone could see was a white, blurry shadow. Two cloud Two loud clanks exploded when his iron chain collided with the two iron plates, sending them flying out of the pavilion through the top, leaving two big holes in the ceiling. By then, Xian Wenxian didn't even bother looking at the moves of his opponents and simply spun faster and faster, knocking the 8 long spears away from him. Slow down your attack and let him exhaust himself, the demon cult leader ordered. Yes, the 8 spear-wielding men answered all together, and then each took 2 steps back, waiting for the chance of another full-out attack, when Xian Wenxian would show cracks in his defense shield from any slight exhaustion. Among the watching audiences, the ones who had a little bit of experience could all tell that Xian Wenxian would not spin like this for very long, no matter how extraordinary his kung fu skills were. Continuing fighting like this, Xian Wenxian would only end up exhausting all his strength and wait for capture with tied hands. Xian Wenxian broke into loud laughter. Suddenly, he squatted slightly and struck out with the iron chain. The end of the iron chain hit one of the men wielding copper hammers right in the waist. The man cried out loud in pain, and the copper hammer in his left hand swung back toward himself and smashed his own head. The 8 spearmen thrust their spears out in unison, attacking all around Xian Wenxian's body. Xian Wenxian swung his iron chain and knocked 2 spears out of the way, while the other 6 spears stabbed toward the right side of his rib cage, as though agreed upon beforehand. At the instant, even if Xian Wenxian could dodge the first spear, he would not be able to dodge the second one. Or even if Xian Wenxian could manage to dodge the second spear, there was no way for him to dodge the third one, much less when there were a total of 6 spears thrust at him at the same time. Watching by the side, Ling Huchong saw the simultaneous stabs from the 6 spears and knew that Xian Wenxian had no chance of dodging them. Before he knew it, he was seized by a sudden impulse and remembered the 4th stance of the Dugu 9 swords, the spear-breaking stance. The extremely critical situation did not allow him to think any further. With a cold flash, he thrust out his longsword. A loud clank echoed as the 8 spears fell to the floor. There were 8 spears falling down to the floor, yet there was only one clank, as though the 8 spears had fallen at the exact same moment. Since the move from Ling Huchong was aimed at 8 different wrists, of course it would not hit 8 wrists at the exact instant, but the thrust was so fast that it almost felt as though the thrust prodded all 8 wrists simultaneously. Once the sword moves started, Ling Huchong simply followed the flow and launched the 5th move, the mace-breaking stance. The name mace-breaking stance was a general title and contained many variations of techniques. It can be used to counter short-handled weapons ranging from steel club, iron mace, acupoint sealing peg, judge's pens, crutches, a sting, dagger, war axe, iron plate, octagonal hammer, and iron awl. After a few quick flashes, the 2 iron maces and the 2 copper hammers also fell to the floor. Out of the total of 12 demon cult's members charging into the pavilion, except one that had been killed by Xian Wenxian, and one whose iron plates had been knocked out of his grips, the rest of the 10 men all took a prod on their wrists and dropped their weapons. After a cry in panic, the 11 men ran back to their own crowd in a fluster, while the crowd of Orthodox school members couldn't help but cheer loudly. Excellent sword art! The sword art of the Huashan school has really widened our views. The demon cult's leader gave another command, and a group of 5 charged into the pavilion at once. A middle-aged woman wielding 2 long knives came running directly toward Ling Huchong, and the other 4 men began attacking Xian Wenxian in a circle. The woman's knife moves were extremely speedy. She had 1 knife in defense and 1 knife in quick offense. When the left knife was attacking, she would use the right knife to defend, and vice versa. When the right knife was attacking, she would use the left knife to defend. So by using both knives, every move was attacking the enemy, while every move was also defending herself. The defense was tight and secure, while the attack was vivid and thorough. Ling Huchong couldn't see the moves clearly and had to take 4 steps back in a row. Then he heard loud swooshing sounds. It looked as though someone was attacking Xian Wenxian with a flexible weapon. While busying himself with dodging the chops from the woman, Ling Huchong still managed to take a peer with a squint. What he saw were 2 men, each wielding a chained mallet, and 2 men using whips in a fierce fight with Xian Wenxian, who still only had the iron chains around his wrists. The steel chain on a chained mallet was very long, and when one swung the chained mallet, it could reach up to 10 feet away. For several times, the mallet actually flew over Ling Huchong's head, only a few feet above him. What does orthodox mean? That's hard to answer. Orthodox means like, well, for let's say you're at let's take the example of a church. The orthodox teachings of the church, or the orthodox beliefs, means the beliefs that the church teaches, the official beliefs of the church, right? And unorthodox beliefs are non-official teaching of the church, which the church may not agree with. So it's like unorthodox means not. How do I explain this? Like not agreeing with the official view. Yeah, I think that's right. Unorthodox. Let's do this. Yeah, contrary to what is usual, traditional, or accepted. No, that's still only one song, because I got that right. Good try, though. Good try. Damn it! Xiang Wenxiang cursed. Right, Counselor Xiang, pardon me, a man yelled in reply. Turned out that the iron chain around Xian Wenxiang's wrist had been entwined with the steel chain from one of the chained mallet, and in a snap of a second, the other 3 weapons from the rest of the 3 attackers struck at Xian Wenxiang's body concurrently. Xian Wenxiang sneered. He pulled right with tremendous force, pulling the man wielding the chained mallet right in front of him just in time, and the 2 whips together with the second chained mallet all landed squarely on the man's back. Ling Huchong thrust his sword out in a tilted angle, and the sword tip drifted a few times before hitting the woman's left wrist. But the blade of the sword actually bent into an arc with a loud clang, and instead of falling out of the grip from the woman's hand, the long knife chopped right back at Ling Huchong from sideways. Ling Huchong felt a shock, but soon understood. She is wearing a wrist cuff made of steel. That's why the sword tip could not cut through it. Rotating his wrist slightly, he turned the thrust into an upward poke. Thud! The sword tip pierced the Jianzhen acupoint on the woman's left shoulder. The woman froze for a split second, but being a bold and tough fighter, she still slashed the knife in her right hand with all her strength, despite the great pain coming from her left shoulder. Ling Huchong snapped his wrist gently, and with a quick flash, the woman's Jianzhen acupoint on her right shoulder was also hit, and she could no longer hold on to her weapons. She used all her remaining strength to throw the 2 knives at Ling Huchong, but her 2 arms had already lost most of their strength. The 2 knives only went as far as a little bit over 1 foot before losing their momentum and falling to the floor. Done. Another chapter. Done. So it looks like these 2, he just found the stranger and he just decided to defend the stranger. And Yeah, and these two are fighting with this whole army. All right, did you guys like this chapter? We are at, let's see, 33. So we're at volume 2. There's 4 volumes. So we're almost to, almost to the halfway point. Almost. Almost. Yeah, so the big thing in this chapter is that he is now out of the Huashan school. He has been kicked out. Right? Now he's a free agent. He's also still sick, right? He's also still ill. So he's about to die. And he refused to be part of the Shaolin school, which would save his life. But you would have to be part of the Shaolin school. Like, probably really boring there. What is heterodox? Well, heterodox is just opposite of orthodox. So orthodox is like the official view, agreeing with the official beliefs, and heterodox would be not agreeing with that. So heterodox is like unorthodox. All right. I guess I owe you a song. What should we sing? What karaoke song should we sing? If you don't give me one, I'm gonna choose one by myself. But what should we sing? What should we sing? It's funny because it's getting lighter, right? It used to be when we start. You usually start at 5:30 p.m. and outside it's all it would be all dark already. But nowadays when we start, it's very light outside. The Cheers theme. Oh, that's a nice easel. The Cheers. Wait. No, I don't know the Cheers theme. I was thinking of the Friends theme. The Friends theme song. Yeah, you can let me pick. You can let me pick. Wonderwall. I think I know that. I probably will know it once I hear it. I don't know what Lemon Tree is. I'm not liking any of these suggestions. The Friends theme song? Is that what you're saying? The Friends theme song? I haven't heard that in a long time. Let's see if there's a karaoke version of it. Oh, there is. There is. Let's do it. Let's do it. Oh, No Doubt is good. I'm Just a Girl. That's good too. But let's do. I hope I remember.
Grammarly can help you write quickly and confidently, so you never have to slow down at work.
Do this ad. Okay. Did you guys know that there's a second verse to this song? I only know the first verse, so we shall see. So no one told you life was gonna be this way. Your job's a joke, you're broke, your love life's the away. It's like you're always stuck in second gear, when it hasn't been your day, your week, your month, or even your year. But I'll be there for you. I'll be there for you if you're there for me. I'll be there for you, 'cause you're there for me too. How does this go? Work began at 8. You burned your breakfast so far, things are going great. Your mother warned you there'd be days like these, but she didn't tell you when the world has brought down to your knees that I'll be there for you if you're there for me. I'll be there for you if you're there for me. I'll be there for you, 'cause you're there for me too. Wait, there's more. No one could ever see me. Seems you're the only one who knows what it's like to be me. Someone to face today with, make it through all the rest with. Someone I'll always laugh with. You know how I wish the best was you, yeah. Oh God. Did you guys know there's more to this song? That's weird. It's like you're always stuck in second gear, when it hasn't been your day, your week, your month, or even your year. I'll be there for you, 'cause you're there for me. I'll be there for you if you're there for me. I'll be there for you, 'cause you're there for me too. I'll be there for you. I'll be there for you. I'll be there for you, 'cause you're there for me too. Oh God. I am so sorry. That was Friends. But that was a Friends theme song. What do you mean? The second verse directly contradicts the first. What do you mean? So the lyrics are, so no one told you life was going to be this way. Your job's a joke, you broke your love life's DOA. And then the second verse says, you're still in bed at 10 and work began at 8. You've burned your breakfast, so far things are going great. Your mother warned you there'd be days like these, but she didn't tell you when the world has brought you down to your knees. Yeah, this is also the first time I hear the full version of the song. To be honest, you didn't really hear the full version of the song. You heard my version. That's probably not what it sounded like. Anyways, all right, bye guys. Thanks for joining. I'll see you next week. All right, I love you. And bye. Bonk, bonk.